Hey guys, how's it going? This is Billy Eat World, and today we're going to tackle a huge topic, which is Russian weapons in Battlefield. Now, just before we start, I want to point out that in this video, I'll be covering weapons from Bad Company 2 through to the Hardline Beta. The reason for this is because these are the games that I've personally played and that I understand. I've played pretty much every Battlefield game ever released, but prior to Bad Company 2, I hadn't really played more than about an hour or two of any Battlefield game. Also, I just want to point out that if I miss any weapons, or if I miss a detail that you think might be important, then feel free to let me know in the comment section below. I'm trying to walk a line here somewhere in between a normal gameplay video and a full-blown documentary, so I hope that you guys can understand that I'm not going to nail every little detail. But anyway, you guys seem to be enjoying my videos on weapon brands as seen in the Battlefield games, so I thought that maybe I could do a similar sort of video for a Russian brand, seeing as that there are so many Russian weapons in these games. What I've found though through doing a lot of research on Russian weapons of the last 100 years is that although there are definitely brands that stand out, a lot of the load has been shared by different manufacturers, and sometimes it's hard to definitively say that a weapon has been produced by a specific brand. This has obviously got a lot to do with the fact that for much of the 20th century, Russia was part of the communist Soviet Union, and during this time weapon design and production was largely controlled by the state. Some of the Russian manufacturers that produce weapons seen in Battlefield games are KBP, which produces the A91, the Tula Arms plant, which produces the ASVAL and the VSS, the Degtярov plant, which produces the AEK, and the Kalashnikov concern, which produces just about everything else. Now, as the names of some of these brands suggest, many Russian firearms manufacturers started out as state-controlled factories, and since the disbanding of the Soviet Union have split into separate companies. Like I said before, during the Soviet period, many Russian factories produced the same weapons, but since the 90s, it's been a lot easier to determine where newer designs actually come from. To start our story though, it's important that we take a look at the standard long rifles of the Russian army during World War II, the Mosin-Nagant bolt-action and later the Tokarev SVT-40 semi-automatic rifle. Both of these weapons fired the full-length 7.62 by 54mm Russian cartridge, which after World War II was phased out of general infantry service in favour of the 7.62 by 39mm intermediate cartridge. The two most famous weapon designs to use this intermediate cartridge preceding World War II were the semi-automatic SKS carbine and the most numerous assault rifle ever produced, the infamous Kalashnikov AK-47. The reason I say infamous rather than famous is because these weapons were produced in massive quantities in countless different variants and are still found in large numbers around the world. This means that they've been responsible for the deaths of literally millions of people around the world. In fact, if you assume that each Kalashnikov and SKS was built with at least 2 magazines of ammunition, if you added all of this up, you'd have more than enough ammunition to kill every human being on the planet. It's estimated that Kalashnikov weapons kill or wound more than 250,000 people around the world every year, making the AK-47 and its variants arguably the deadliest weapon system currently in use on the planet. The AK-47 and its countless successors, including the AKM, AK-74, AK-100 series and the AK-12, are so widely used because of a number of characteristics often found in Russian weapons. Older Russian weapons were designed to be mass-produced and therefore are cheap by comparison to many modern advanced designs. The tolerances allowed in the production process of weapons like the AK and SKS were also much less strict, which means that although these weapons may not be as accurate as their Western counterparts, they are often far more reliable. In the Vietnam War, while many US troops were having jamming issues with their new M16 in the dirty jungle battlefield, the SKS and AK rifles used by the NVA and Viet Cong functioned perfectly with very little maintenance. The other advantage the AK had, which was a huge benefit during the Vietnam War, was its ability to punch through light cover and dense vegetation, while still maintaining the kinetic energy to kill its target and the guy behind him. The weight of both weapon and ammunition was a critical factor though, which inevitably outweighed the other benefits of the 7.62 by 39mm round, and in the 1970s the Soviet military began to transition to smaller caliber variants of the AK. The AK-74 was the Soviet answer to the American M16, and is essentially the same basic AK design which fires the smaller 5.45 by 39mm round. The AK-74 design is still to this day the primary service rifle of the Russian military, although it's complemented in smaller numbers by the larger caliber AKM and the AKS-74U carbine. The AKM is essentially an improved AK-47, used when greater penetration is needed, and the AKS-74U is a carbine variant of the standard AK-74 design with a shorter barrel and a collapsible stock. Many variations of the AK design have attempted to replace the AK-74 in general service, but it's tough to beat what is already an effective, economical and reliable design. In Battlefield games though, we've seen quite a few advanced Russian assault rifles, including the AK-12, AN-94, A-91, the AEK-971 and the AS-FAL. The AK-12 is the newest incarnation of the venerable AK design, and prior to BF4's release was being considered as a replacement for the AK-74. In late 2013, the Russian government decided not to adopt the AK-12 though, so like the XM8 from Bad Company 2, which was rejected as a replacement for the US M16, BF4 could possibly be the last game where we see the AK-12. The AEK-971 was another improved AK design that was intended to replace the AK-74, but was overlooked in the mid-90s in favour of the AN-94. The AN-94, which was last seen in BF3, is an advanced assault rifle design that has a unique burst fire mode that allows 2 shots to be fired almost instantaneously. The first 2 shots fired fire at a rate of 800 RPM, which enables it to penetrate body armour, but this comes at the expense of a complex design and a higher production cost. For these reasons, the AN-94 was also never to see general use, being instead issued in small quantities to Russian Special Forces. Russian Special Forces also use an assault rifle designed with an integrated suppressor called the AS-FAL. This gun makes an appearance in Battlefield 3 and 4, and its sniper variant, the VSS, was available in Bad Company 2. In Battlefield, the AS-FAL is put into the PDW category, but in real life it has more in common with an AR or carbine than it does with a submachine gun. And the last Russian assault rifle that deserves a mention is the polymer frame bullpup design AR, the A91. This rifle is designed to be lighter and more compact than standard AK designs, but like many countries around the world, the Russian military have been hesitant to adopt a bullpup as its standard rifle. Along with its even more compact variants, the A91 is in use with Russian police and security services though, where its size and weight is far more important. Also in service with the Russian military and law enforcement groups are a number of other specialist and squad support weapons which have made an appearance in Battlefield games. The SV-98 bolt-action rifle has been the standard sniper rifle of the Russian military since 1998, serving alongside the Dragunov SVD semi-automatic sniper rifle. Both of these weapons, if you include the newer SVD-12, have made an appearance in almost every recent Battlefield game. The Dragunov in particular is a very iconic sniper rifle with an unusual stock design that it shares with the SV-98. It's been seen in countless video games and movies, in part because of how it looks, but also because of its widespread use in former Soviet countries and around the world. In the Battlefield Hardline beta, we also saw the introduction of the Saiga 308 semi-automatic rifle, which is both cosmetically and functionally very similar to the AK weapons. This rifle is available in a number of different calibers, but the model seen in Hardline fires the Remington 308 round, which is otherwise known as the 7.62 by 51mm NATO round. As for squad support weapons, the PK and RPK light machine guns have also made an appearance in most recent Battlefield games, although in Battlefield 4 we have access to the newer PKP instead of the PKM, and the RPK-12 in addition to the RPK-74. The original PK and RPK were also both designed by Mikhail Kalashnikov, the designer of the AK-47, and were produced alongside the AK in many cases. As you can imagine, this means that the PK and in particular the RPK share many characteristics with the AK design, including their famous reliability. And finally, in the pistol, shotgun and PDW categories, the weapons that have appeared consistently in Battlefield since Bad Company 2 have been the PP2000 submachine gun, Saiga 12K shotgun, the MP443 semi-automatic pistol and the MP412 Rex revolver. The PP2000 and Saiga shotguns have both seen limited use in Russian law enforcement and security services, but to my knowledge the Rex is not in general use for military or law enforcement anywhere in the world. In contrast to this though, the 9mm MP443 has been the standard handgun of all branches of the Russian military and law enforcement since 2003. But anyway, to finish up this video, I hope now that you can see how Russian small arms have developed since World War II. As long as Russia is a playable country, it's likely that we're going to see many Russian weapons in Battlefield games well into the future, and it's likely that most of these will be in some way related to the AK. So what I want you guys to do is let me know in the comment section below what your favourite Russian weapon has been since Bad Company 2, and let me know what Russian weapons you'd like to see return in Battlefield Hardline and future Battlefield games. As always, if you like what you see, please remember to leave a like and check out all my other Battlefield 4 videos. I've got them all linked in a playlist in the description below. And until next time guys, see you later and have a good one.